Have you ever wondered why the Great Wall of China is so vast? In fact, it's over 13,000 miles long. Have you ever wondered who decided to build it, or how it was built? Have you ever wondered how such a large piece of architecture could be constructed with such little technology? Well, I'm going to tell you the history and the purpose of the Great Wall of China. I'm going to tell you who built the wall, why it was built, and how they did it. To get a background, let's discuss when the Great Wall was built and who built it. The Great Wall of China wasn't just built by one person. In fact, it's a collection of separate walls built by many people over many generations, beginning as early as the 6th century BC. During the early stages of the wall, China had not yet been unified and was divided into several states. These states included Qin, Wei, Zhao, Qi, Yan, and Zhongshan. This period was a time of war, and the states built walls around their territories. In the 3rd century BC, China was at last unified under the Qin dynasty. During this rule, the walls dividing states were removed, and the walls surrounding the entirety of the country were fortified. For many years, empires rose and fell, and little was done with the wall besides maintenance. In the 14th century, under the Ming dynasty, the northern walls were fortified using newer technologies to protect from invaders. In the 17th century, the Qing dynasty built a wall that was used for non-military purposes. In fact, it was simply used for transportation. Today, many sections of the wall are being restored and maintained as a monument to China's cultural heritage. Now we have a background. Let's discuss the purposes of the wall. There were several purposes for the wall. The first is quite obvious: defense. In the early stages of the wall, it was used as a blockade to prevent invaders from swarming in quickly. It was nothing more than an obstacle used to slow down enemies. As building techniques progressed, watchtowers were built for surveillance. Also, barracks were built right into the wall so that troops could be called in at a moment's notice. Another military use for the wall was to pass information quickly by the way of smoke signals. This primitive method of communication could provide key military intelligence to the ancient warlords. Another use for the wall was transportation. A direct path that extended far west from China's key cities allowed for trade routes to be established with the Middle East. And since it was the only path, it was easy for China to set up places to regulate the goods that were imported and exported, even tax them if there was a need. Also, since it was a singular route to follow, China could easily regulate immigration and emigration. We now know the reasons that the wall was built. Next, let's talk about the methods used to build it. One of the most commonly used techniques to build parts of the wall surrounding cities was packing earth between two wooden boards. This wall was simply designed to prevent damage from primitive weapons, such as swords and spears. As the wall extended out, materials became difficult to transport. There was little technology available for moving large quantities of material. Because of this, the Chinese utilized the local resources around where they were building. If they were building in a mountain, they would simply use the rocks nearby. If they were building across a plain, they would simply build up the wall using packed earth. In later years of the wall building, specifically during the Ming dynasty, technologies were advanced enough that they could transport brick and tiles. These materials were more sturdy and durable than stacked rock or packed earth. Bricks were used to fortify the north wall in the 14th century. Some areas that lacked resources and money would use other methods to build the wall as well. In Liaodong, which was mainly farmland, they simply mounded up earth and dug a moat on each side. This was simple yet effective. Other areas of the wall weren't actually walls, but deep trenches that made it difficult to pass. The Chinese also tied the wall in with natural barriers to save time and resources. Some of these included hills and rivers that connect wall segments. Now you know the history and purpose of the Great Wall of China. You should now have a good understanding of who built the wall, their reasons for building it, and how they built it. The Great Wall of China is a fascinating piece of Chinese history, and it will continue to astound people for centuries to come.